If you guys can find a seat. We don't have Kendrick for too long, so you guys gotta really focus and bear with us. So guys, let me just get your attention. I know everybody's hyped. We have Kendrick Lamar here. He's a phenomenal writer and author and poet and musician, and we're just thrilled to have him here and that he could join us for this event. So, I want to say a few things before we get into the program, and you guys will hear from Kendrick in a little bit. I want to say that part of the reason that you're here is because Kendrick Lamar cares about education. And he cares about students, and he cares about you guys developing as writers and critical thinkers. So I want to say that the fact that we have a hip-hop celebrity here is great, but the focus of this event really is the educational value of hip-hop, and particularly Kendrick Lamar's music, his latest album. So, the focus of this event is our students and the work that they've done, particularly in my classes where they've been studying his album. And I want to say that this is not an isolated thing. This movement to incorporate hip-hop culture into education as a framework for teaching and learning is a movement. In fact, we call it hip-hop ed. And there are brilliant scholars and researchers and people doing work at universities, Ivy League universities, that are studying and documenting the effect that hip-hop can have on young people in classrooms. And it's brilliant work, and it's educational, and it's inspirational. So, that is the focus. I was studying To Pimp a Butterfly in my graduate school class at Columbia University. Can you believe that? Some people say hip-hop doesn't belong in schools, but we're here to prove them wrong because it does. And students need to develop the tools, the critical thinking skills to critique hip-hop, because a lot of music and other forms of entertainment are not positive always. But there are artists who have a counter-narrative, who are pushing back. And we need students to be able to look at media, including pop culture and hip-hop, critically, and that's where this work begins. So that is the focus of our event. I studied the album in my grad school class. I adapted it for my high school classroom. I engaged my freshmen in a unit that focused on a very famous novel by Toni Morrison called The Bluest Eye. You should read it. It's amazing. And we looked at all the parallels that book, written in 1970, has to Kendrick Lamar's album, who is discussing the same themes in 2015, contemporary. So that link established, I wrote a blog post reflecting on it, and it went viral on the internet. And it made its way to Kendrick's team, and they put him on it, and he reached out to us and said, I want to go to that school to meet those students. In a few minutes, I'm going to introduce you guys to this brilliant panel of scholars and thinkers, people who are here joining us from Teachers College, Columbia University, my professor and mentor, and I'll introduce you to them in a minute. But I think it's important that we start this event with youth voice. And what I mean is, we're going to have one of our very talented poets come up. Her name is Aaliyah Oliver. So she's going to open the space with a poem, so make some noise for
Good afternoon, everybody. All right, I'm going to perform a poem called Out of Many One. Out of of many, one with copper-colored skin, bearing a monument on her back and liberty raised bold and screaming on her face. One whose value was set so low that years were heavy enough to push it below the worthy line. One dealt blows of depreciation through every scratch and scuff. I am one in the uniform, stacks on stacks, the backs of silvers and greens, yet the dollar makes them holler at me. I'm a penny, the forgotten currency. I fill up the empty house corners, clutter the streets and sidewalks, hide in garbage cans, and waste the space in your wallets and money jars. I lay on the ground of backgrounds. I go unnoticed, but I'm a noisemaker. My community of coins like to clink in communion. They carry conversation and jangle. They make music so sweet you reach deep inside your pocket searching for the promise your ears made to your thoughts, but soon find disappointment weighing down your palms. Silver and bronze sound the same, but you count me out of your change like I didn't make your purchase. You tell me I'm obsolete, then toss me into fountains like I'll make your dreams come true. I'm tired of the circulation. These misunderstanding hands, they all think that sowing me will reap the money trees, that I'd offer my body to be split open and exploited so they could scatter my seeds far from their inheritance. This layer of rust is all that keeps me from drowning in this confusion. I just want to be used or discontinued. If you tell someone they aren't good enough times, they'll start to believe it. I remind myself, I make up the thousands and the millions. I back the tender of the middle-class man all the way to the millionaire. But neither of them wants to associate with me. Some say that money is the root of all evil. And by now my roots have grown wide and thick. My trees bear bitter fruit. It branches outstretched and declares, a penny thrown from great heights can kill. I am the mastermind of the economy, the bane of your existence. You don't work for the dollars, the stacks on stacks, the backs of the hundreds and thousands. I am the bronze that has inherited earth. The most overlooked of uncertain power, cloaked in shades of greens and creams. I'm too cumbersome to count out. So I'm simplified and forgotten for everyday use. But from the ground of backgrounds, my community of coins clink boldly in communion. My liberty placed behind me permanently screams to remind them I won't go unnoticed.
Everyone. Amazing poet, amazing. This is what we're here to do. We're here to talk about literacy, and we're here to talk about reading and writing and being critical of the world and doing it in a healthy way. And that's a great example, and so we want to thank Aaliyah for opening up the space for us with that beautiful, powerful piece. So, we're going to hear some more student work in a minute. It's 2 poems and then an essay and a performance piece that one of my freshman students did. But before we do that, well, first of all, I should remind you guys, what do you do if you hear a line in a poem that you really like? That's right. Or you can verbally respond as long as it's like, you know, respectful and appropriate. So, all right, what I want to do is I want to introduce you guys to this amazing, brilliant panel that we have up here real quick, who are going to be kind of discussing the student work that is presented. And then we're going to have an academic discussion about the artifacts or the student work that you guys see. So, first off, I want to introduce my mentor, someone who has been so influential and has helped me tremendously. He was my professor this last semester at Columbia University, at Teachers College, where we studied To Pimp a Butterfly with brilliant grad school people in an Ivy League university. And his name is Dr. Chris Emdin. A little bit bit about Chris Emdin. So Dr. Chris Emdin, he's an associate professor in the Department of Mathematics, Science, and Technology at Teachers College, Columbia University, where he also serves as the Director of Science Education at the Center for Health Equity and Urban Science Education. He is currently a Caperton Fellow and Hip Hop Archive Fellow at the W.B. Du Bois Institute at Harvard University. Dr. Emdin is a social critic, public intellectual, science advocate, whose commentary on issues of race, culture, inequality, and education have appeared in dozens of influential periodicals, including the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and Washington Post. Dr. Emdin holds a Ph.D. in urban education with a concentration in mathematics, science, and technology, a master's degree in both natural sciences and education administration, and a bachelor's degrees in physical anthropology, biology, and chemistry. So he's like degreed up. Right? He is the co-creator of the Hip Hop Ed social movement and a much sought after public speaker on a number of topics that include hip hop and education, STEM education, politics, race, class, diversity, and youth empowerment. He is also an advisor to numerous international organizations, school districts, and school sessions for students, teachers, policymakers, and other education stakeholders with the public and private sector. Lastly, Dr. Emdin writes for the provocative Emdin 5 series on a number of contemporary social issues for the Huffington Post. He is also author of the award-winning book, Urban Science Education for the Hip Hop Generation. So give it up for Dr. Emdin. Wow, that was a mouthful. I hope my bio is one day that long. Right? We also have up here joining us, I have to blow up her spot, newly minted. She just got her Ph.D. She is now Dr. Jamila Lyiscott. So give it up. Yeah, they don't just give those things out. So you have to really work for that. So it's an incredible accomplishment, and we feel really lucky to have her on the panel. So a little bit about Jamila. She, like I said, recently received her Ph.D. at Teachers College, Columbia University, where her work focuses on the education of the African diaspora. A spoken word artist since the age of 15, Jamila engages the arts in her work as a scholar, educator, activist, and community organizer. Jamila's scholarship and activism work together to prepare educators to sustain diversity in the classroom, empower youth, and explore, assert, and defend the value of Black life. You can clap for that. As an adjunct professor and community educator, Jamila has lectured and performed throughout the country, directed conferences and programs both nationally and internationally, and teaches courses on literacy and diversity for pre-service and in-service educators. Jamila is the recipient of several fellowships and is currently working as a graduate research fellow at the Institute for Urban and Minority Education, where she leads the Ciphers for Justice Youth Research and Advocacy program. So give it up for Jamila. Moving on, I'm going to do like a few of these off the top of my head. We also are blessed with the presence of, we have an alumni here. We have Greg, so give it up for Greg. So Greg, he graduated in 2013, right, Greg? And yeah, he's like, I forgot. So a few years ago, he's a high-tech alumni. He's now studying at New York University. Greg is an MC, a writer, a singer, a songwriter. He was a musical theater major while he was here. So give it up for Greg. We also have Miss Krone, our assistant principal. Give it up for her. So today probably just made her like the coolest assistant principal in the world, right? Yeah. Ms. Krone is an incredible leader and administrator. She supports us in the work that we do with hip hop and spoken word in the classroom. She's always supportive, and we're feeling really lucky to have her on the panel. So one time for Ms. Krone, give it up. All right, and lastly but not least, we have this guy up here. You might have heard of him. His name is Kendrick Lamar. I'm gonna just give you guys, I know a lot of people know him, but for those that don't, so Kendrick, he's a hip hop artist from Compton, California. And yeah, we can show love. We're out here on the East Coast, but He is signed to Aftermath and Interscope Records. Lamar began to gain major recognition in 2010. His major label debut album, Good Kid, Mad City, was released in October 2012. To widespread acclaim, and the album contained several top 40 hits and debuted at #2 on the US Billboard 200 chart and was later certified platinum by the Recording Industry Association of America. In early 2013, MTV crowned Lamar the #1 hottest MC in the game. Lamar has also received a total of 7 Grammy nominations at the 56th Annual Grammy Awards, which was in 2014, including Best New Artist, Album of the Year, and Best Rap Song. A year later, you might want to hold for this. A year later, at the 57th Annual Grammy Awards, which was 2015, Kendrick Lamar won Best Rap Performance and Best Rap Song for his single I. In March 2015, Lamar released his 3rd album, To Pimp a Butterfly, to wide acclaim. The album includes elements of funk, jazz, spoken word poetry, and most recently, on May 12, 2015, the California State Senate honored Kendrick Lamar as a generational icon. So give it up. So, you guys ready for some student work? Alright, so the first person who's going to come up to present their work inspired by Kendrick's music is Sade Ford. She will tell you the title of her poem, but make some noise for Sade Ford!
So I've decided to name it, It Takes a Village to Raise a Butterfly. Can't stand Jersey City on some days. Feeling like just another caterpillar left in the dark. These walls haven't been moving for years, but every year they grow smaller, they grow closer together, and it feels like the longer I stay, the harder it is to leave them. To leave the street corners and the sounds of siren on the hour. To leave the nighttime terrors and the burdens that the daylight bring. These walls have been here for a long time. They are worn, solid, missing some pieces, no windows, getting smaller. Why can't I leave? It feels like my feet are engraved into the concrete. Love this place, hate this place, can't stand Jersey City on some days. Feeling like just another caterpillar. A lot less like a butterfly. These walls aren't moving. They've surrounded me in their calamity for many years now, and I can't help but comparing it to a cocoon. These walls seem to shroud me in darkness and shed light to how small our world is. These walls hold in a city where thoughts travel through streetlights, and people's prayers are whispered to white t-shirts and candles. These walls have forgotten to teach our boys to be men. These walls don't leave your children behind. These walls make college seem like an oasis and a desert. Nothing but an illusion. Like the color of my skin is a tribute to my smartness. Like my mind is just a brick wall. The common sense can't be spelled out with Sharpie markers and spray paint. Like nothing can get through these walls. Like these walls only understand violence. Like speaking softly is the same as carrying a big stick. These walls only understand that the government is taking advantage by building more walls, and these walls aren't replaced, just built over and again and on top of and breaking and damage. These walls are a waste. These walls, those are the walls built for people like me. Those are the walls that need to be torn down. These walls are lit up by neurons, held up by glue and thumbtacks. These walls were built by the architects of Jerusalem. Built brick by brick with the sweat of people who were as displaced as I am now. Then divided and fought over, blood-spilled, war started. Jerusalem. Never as beautiful as the stories that these walls tell. They tell stories of girls who forgot that their bodies were temples. God can't caress their bodies the way a man can. These walls were created through perception, street smarts, and sin. These walls haven't been holy for years. These walls have holes carved into them for the caterpillars trying to escape. These walls whisper words that keep the moon up for just a little longer. These walls speak silence. Blood seems to run like horses. Can't catch dreams with Jordans. Try not to love the tribes. See these walls, love these walls. These walls love me, these walls, these walls. Have moved faster than time. They seem to be paved with good intentions. These walls are starved. Not enough knowledge coming in to keep these walls sane. Stop purging. Tell the walls that they need all the nutrients in the village to raise this child, to become a butterfly. Tell them that malnourishment doesn't look good on them. Keep these walls and let the North Star guide you, because these walls haven't seen constellations, just stars. These walls tell this girl that there's nothing left for her if she stays. That the mind is a terrible thing to waste, and these walls do not encase her mind. That one day, her mind will mend these walls, that one day, these walls will be open doors, and her mind, the road. Thank you.
We ask that you guys don't stand on the chairs because they're really fragile. So, so I'm going to open it up to the panel. So,
someone died. Can you imagine?
First of all, I just want to hear another round of applause for that young lady for that brilliant song. My most immediate and gut reaction to the piece is just how it seemed almost like an extension of Kendrick's work. It's like taking the thoughts in the album and then giving a response to it. And then, you know, when the hook on the song is if these walls could talk, in many ways in this poem, the walls are talking. So she's being the walls and then describing what the walls are saying to her. And you know, just more broadly, the notion that you could create a piece and then there are multiple meanings that can be drawn out of it. And then she can respond to that work in a way that speaks to her experiences in Jersey. It transcends Compton, right? It includes Jersey, but not only that, it also includes her own fears. So I hear her talking about college and not wanting to go to college, and I hear her talking about the feeling of being a girl and not knowing how to be valued because she thinks that it requires masculinity to be able to value her. So in this idea of responding to your poem, she's almost creating her own piece, and I think that's just beautiful.
The best part, simply the fact that she can give her own perspective from different walks of life. The fact that she mentioned college. I never thought I can hear that concept articulated and you know, referenced in the lights of college from a female perspective. So that just means you just remix the whole joint, you know, even better than I can even imagine, you know. And the simple fact I wrote it from my own perspective, from a male perspective, even though it has a feel of a female vibe. If I was to ever to do a remix, it would have to be from that standpoint, in a matter where you can learn something from it, because there's so many different layers in the song. So she just took the different layers and made it not only for herself, but for every female individual out here that goes through these worries and these doubts, the same way I went through my worries and doubts on that particular record. So I think that's amazing.
I think to myself, this piece is a butterfly, right? Because Kendrick, in the album, you speak about the walls as the cocoon, and in the piece here, she speaks about the relationship between the developing caterpillar within that cocoon, right? So the walls, the cocoon, and you speak about it as institutionalization, right? What does it mean to navigate these institutions that are set up against us, but to emerge more powerfully and more colorfully and more brilliantly beyond what was meant to constrict us, right? And in this piece, I see that.
I see that in my interaction with any institutional space, with any city, with any school context, with any space that is meant to hold me back, I can develop and emerge in relationship with these walls and become something so beautiful that reflects and resonates and still carries everything that was in me as a caterpillar. So I really see the powerful butterfly beauty of this piece, and I thank you for that.
I think one thing that really stood out to me is also that she said she loves these walls. So it's, you know, Jersey City is her home, it's where she loves, but it's that kind of, you know, struggle that she really has with that relationship, and probably the fear that all of you have going out away to college and growing up a little bit.
I just want to start by saying I'm 19, so I'm with you guys right here, and I'm in college, but at the same time, youth could be a trap in itself. I see the problem with youth is we have all this ambition, but our ambition exceeds our capability a lot of the time, and that's a wall. And our capability is blocked off by walls, which can be institutions, it could be family issues, it could be race issues, it could be anything. But you have to find ways to, a medium almost, to exercise and avoid these walls and fulfill your ambition. So I'm relating to this, you know, I make music too. I'm in school, and a lot of the time you see a lot of artists, you see a Kendrick, you see whoever you aspire to be, and maybe your talent or your capability doesn't allow you to fulfill these ambitions, but I'm just telling you guys, anything is possible, so.
So, one more time, give it up for Sade. Yeah. Next up, we're gonna keep things moving. We have another student who's performing a poem. I'll let him tell you the name of it. Give it up for senior Ben Vach.
Hey everybody, what's up? So I call this poem after Kendrick Lamar's Mortal Man. Ever since I was a kid, I've had this irrational fear of caterpillars. The way they inched around with the swagger, their creepy tufts of hair, just their presence in a public space made me nervous. If I saw one inching as I walked down the sidewalk, I'd cross the street in fear. My friends tried to rationalize with me how silly this was, that they're harmless. Worst comes to worst, they're easy to squash. Walk all over them, trample them underfoot. It's just another caterpillar. No one's gonna miss it. In a few weeks' time, there'll be butterflies. I'm nearly 18 now, almost off to college, and I still have this childish fear rested comfortably on the back of my neck. I've been wondering where I've learned this behavior, if it's deeper. If anyone else has the same fear of things that have the potential to become so beautiful. I've seen the news stories lately of Eric Garner getting squashed in a chokehold, of 5 bullets piercing holes through Walter Scott's cocoon as we watched his beauty bleed out of them, looping on every news channel, of inner city schools starved with food deserts and budget cuts so the kids can't even make their own cocoons, so afraid to watch that black boy fly, of black bodies being treated like bugs that needed exterminating, black men, women, and children stunted and murdered because of the swagger on their walk, because of their nappy hair, because of our fear of them in public spaces, spending so much effort to make butterflies ashamed of the color on their own wings, makes me realize I've crossed streets before in fear for more reasons than just a caterpillar, that maybe this fear is generational, but the same fear that rests on the back of my neck rests in the hands of the slave master's whip. That same fear rests in the hands of the public, guns drawn, assuming unarmed black men like Trayvon Martin, like Michael Brown, can't be as innocent as butterflies, making excuses like, I don't know, I'm no mortal man. Maybe it's just another accident. I'm nearly 18 now. Almost off to college, almost out my own cocoon. But I can't help but feel like maybe I haven't been the butterfly all this time. Maybe I've been the moth, feasting off of other colorful linens to keep my wings strung, appropriating culture to keep myself afloat, leaving holes in the fabric for our excuses for murder. But then, hip-hop, but also Kendrick, is a caterpillar in my palm. And for the first time, I don't feel the need to squash it. I just let it sit there as I watch my own wings emerge. Thank you.
That's dope. Man, y'all, all of y'all is crazy. You know, the hardest thing for not only an artist, but for anybody to do is look themselves in the mirror and acknowledge, you know, their own flaws and fears and imperfections. And from the start, I seen that's what you was doing. You was able to break down yourself and your own worries and put them out there in the open for people to relate to it. And then for you to come around and look at other people's fears outside of your own identity, acknowledge theirs and make them connect with yours for your own conclusion, that's even better. Because not only do you relate, I can relate to you as well. You know what I'm saying? Knowing that the fact that you identify with my community and what's going on in the world, and to telling your own story, and I appreciate you for that. And the simple fact of you acknowledging that, it allows me to know that you're more human. You can look at everybody else's perspectives other than your own, and that's what I want to do with this album. It's not just about the black community, my community, it's about the world and other people's views and how we can help each other. And you doing that with this poem that you just read. Thank you.
Just to extend on that theme, you know, what this poem does for me, it also helps me and I think us collectively to really take a step back and look at even this event, right? This notion of hip-hop ed, this merging of hip-hop and education is in itself an opportunity for us to like transgress and push against the structures of traditional schools. Like it would have been easy enough for Kendrick to come here, spit some bars and keep it moving, right? And that process would have been us limiting the potential for all of us collectively to explore the complexities of his work. When we render someone like him to just an artist who says words and raps and leaves, then we're truncating the opportunity for not just him to fully develop, but for all of us collectively to develop. So what you describe in that work, when you talk about the fact that, you know, I let it sit there and I let my own wings emerge for the education system. For those of us who don't understand the potential of hip hop and education, we just want you to sit back and watch the wings emerge for the system of schooling by saying that a Kendrick Lamar can sit on stage and take the helm of an academic conversation. That I, as an Ivy League professor, and Jamila as a Ph.D. and an assistant principal, all defer back to allow your brilliance to emerge and your work to emerge. And what we all need to do collectively, whether we're talking about race, class, ethnicity, although those are the most significant ones, is to be able to realize when we have to take away our privilege and allow the brilliance of the other to become present. And in so doing, we do what you said in that last line. We let it sit there and we'll watch our own wings emerge. Like letting people be and grow and become and be more than we think them should be allows us all collectively to grow. So thank you for doing that through your work.
I want to thank you for this piece. I want to really, when I first read this piece, it resonated with me very deeply. So as young people, you're often taught to soar, right? To soar, to aim out, to aim high, to reach high, to branch out. But what about the process and the project of soaring in, right? Of delving in, and how that becomes powerfully worthy of intellectually rigorous just analyzation, right? We're gonna sit here and look at this and unpack this. And so I think that Kendrick, in your work, you invited this young man to do this. And then you invite us to do the same thing. And what happens when we navigate the personal in a powerful way, it becomes political. So a lot of times, especially right now in what's happening in our world, there seems like there's supposed to be a divorce between the emotional and the intellectual space, right? Like there's some kind of division. But intellect is emotional, and emotion is intellectual. And when you soar in as a way to soar out, and you understand the personal as political, and the personal as pedagogical, and the personal as having the power to connect and to humanize the cocoon and the institutions around us, you invite the rest of us to be more human in a world that consistently tries to dehumanize us. And so I thank you.
I just stole the mic from Kendrick. So we're gonna keep things moving, but I think I need our video feed to switch over to the PowerPoint, if that's doable real quick, because we have Joan Marie coming up as our next panel presenter. And Joan Marie has, so let me just say this real quick, and we're gonna invite Joan Marie up here. So come on out. So guys, Joan Marie is a freshman. Give it up for the freshman. Joan Marie was part of a freshman class. These kids, 14, 15 years old, who were studying The Bluest Eye and also Kendrick's album. And we had so many challenging, but also really powerful learning moments in my classroom. And I think that Joan Marie's essay is a testament to that. And it compares To Pimp a Butterfly with Toni Morrison's novel, The Bluest Eye. So she's gonna share with us a few excerpts from her essay and a really short clip from, she did a performance art piece in my classroom. It's crazy, wait till you see it, I promise. But we're gonna give Joan Marie some time to share with us some excerpts from her essay and just talk about each one, like just real briefly. So guys, please, it's not easy to get up here, especially when you're a freshman, but she's awesome, so give it up for Joan Marie.
Good morning. So my thesis for this essay was, both The Bluest Eye and To Pimp a Butterfly express the African American struggle to adhere to white standards. The media fuels up our society to create unrealistic standards. The media creates unnecessary pressure. The media creates master narrative. And this album and this novel was able to clearly explain what an African American has to go through while this master narrative kind of hovers over them. How many of you have ever owned a light-skinned doll with a, like typical blonde hair, blue eyes, like a Barbie doll, like a typical baby doll? I know, I expected it. And there's some point in time where we thought to ourselves, wow, I want those eyes, or wow, she has nice clothes, or she has the most beautiful hair. The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison is about an 11-year-old girl, African-American girl, named Nicola Breedlove. And even though she was raped by her father twice in the story, all she wanted in her life was to get blue eyes. In fact, her icon was actually Shirley Temple. If you guys don't know who Shirley Temple is, she's a young actor, singer, dancer, who had the typical beautiful blonde hair, sparkling eyes, and light skin. And, she had a rough life where all she wanted was basically blue eyes. In fact, she even went to the church to tell the priest that, oh my God, all I wanted were blue eyes. And at some point, she did believe that she had blue eyes, and that's where she went insane. And when you have all these standards being put on top of you, especially for an African American, where's the room to be sane? When she went insane, she began to be paranoid because she thought their eyes are bluer than hers. And in Kendrick's song, For Sale, Lucy was offering him all these great things, like giving him lots of money, taking him out of Compton. And she was only going to give him these things if he became this materialistic rapper that society expects all rappers to be. And it's the same that when I first heard his album and there was a song that correlates to when Picola went insane, that's when like, wow, issues back then are still happening now. Next, in the lyrics For Free, he states, I shouldn't be messing with you anyway, I need a baller. The guy was irrelevant because he didn't have any money. And I took this as how US society kind of expects a black man to be famous. The woman wanted fortune, and unless you're making it big, you're nothing to her. A crazy fact that I actually discovered was that black actors have received only 4% of the Oscars for best acting since 1929. So a lot of these great performers, entertainment, like they don't get recognized because, I don't know, maybe it's because of the color of their skin. But just from that, we can see a glance at the US politically. Lastly, both The Bluest Eye and To Pimp a Butterfly exhibit the insanity and chaos African Americans go through when trying to be a different person. You know, nowadays we associate the color black as dirty and the color white as, you know, pure and clean. And who wouldn't take offense to that? So now there's a constant battle between should I conform to society's expectations or be proud of myself? And both types of literature clearly explain that. And even in Kendrick's song, Complexion, he explains why you should be proud of yourself even if, you know, like the world is ganging up on you. And that's my literally analysis.
Thank you so much. Are we able to show a short clip of her performance?
Real suspicious guy. The best address I can give you. This guy looks like he's up to no good or he's on drugs or something. It's raining and he's just walking around looking about. Okay, this guy, you want to...
And can you show me the doll that is the nice doll? And why is that the nice doll?
Our standards that are imposed upon us, like, you know, you're prettier if you're light skinned. I also consider being lighter as a form of beauty, or, you know, beautiful than being dark skinned. So I used to think of myself as being ugly because I was dark skinned.
6 in the morning, lying in the street, and sometimes I get off on you, dying, baby, it's such a shame. Yes, I am. Why are you telling me? Yes. Because I haven't blown up. You're not both sides. It's fine.
I've always heard of the concept that black is considered as, like dirty, and it has a negative connotation to it. So I wanted to start out as a black butterfly to consider myself as pure. And if you watch the video in the full way, you see I get affected by all the media because, there's African Americans getting shot, and like black girls getting affected because of their skin color, thinking they're ugly, and it really changes a person's mind, and it makes them go insane because they started out in this world thinking, I'm special and I should be proud of myself, but as they live life, they realize, oh, maybe society doesn't like me.
Definitely a good, was she in the, I couldn't really see right here, was she in the, a butterfly and it was black, right? Yeah. I wish I could have walked up to see it. But yeah, what you were saying, the thing I like most listening to you is, well, what I learned is people's views of the world. The fact that in her case she was told that black people were dirty. That's a trip for me. That's a trip, because in my community that's all we know is black people. You know what I'm saying? So anything outside of that we're not really familiar with. I grew up in Compton my whole life. I only been in the industry for a couple years, and Compton is all minority as far as black and Hispanic. So we look at ourselves as beautiful all day, every day. When we look in the mirror, you dig what I'm saying? So to understand that it's different societies in the world that may teach kids something else, it always mind boggles me, because it separates beauty and beauty from God, period. Not me saying, I don't like you because you look a certain way, I don't like you because you look a certain way. We all human at the end of the day, and we all come from the same place. You know what I'm saying? And to see her perspective on how she was raised, or what she was told, and her going against that and saying, I'm gonna have my own identity, and I'm gonna respect black people as beauty, or any other race as beauty, I commend her not only for having her own mind, but having her own mind at such a young age. We don't get that.
You talked about media, and a lot of people poo-poo media, but I believe that media is a devil and a saint at the same time, I'm Armenian, and I can ask this crowd right now who remembers the Armenian genocide of 1915, and I'm sure a lot of you, just raise your hand if any of you all know about that. That's at least less than a third of this room. And that was because we didn't have mass media to exploit what was happening in 1915 between the Ottoman Empire and the Armenians. So I have a whole generation, my grandparents' whole story is not even told, and that's, of course, really effed up to me. But at the same time, media is bringing us together. Media is the reason we're talking about a lot of the things that's going on. Media is part of the reason Kendrick is here, part of the reason his album was put together. So media, in my eyes, is a sword. You gotta use it the right way. You either spill blood or you cut flowers. Especially social media. A lot of you, if I asked all you guys to delete Instagram off your phone right now, I assume none of you would, because it's important to you. But yeah, I hear you guys. We're living in an image-based society where basically we're judging talent based off of image, and I'm just trying to get everybody to reverse that. Let your talent speak for your image, okay? Don't be so concerned in your apps and whatever is your representation of you, because it's so temporary. You don't think in 2 years there'll be a new sort of social media? Just think about that. You know, work toward your image. Don't let your image work you.
All of these pieces, when I read them, I was just blown away, and in connection with something that Kendrick just said, really, really resonated with me. I know that Black Lives Matter. I know that, right? But it's really sad because this had to become an international campaign. The fact that people have to assert something so basic is so sad, right? And so it means that, you know, in this work, in your work, Kendrick, like if Black Lives matter, then it can't just matter in knowledge, it has to matter in application, right? So it means that Black Lives Mattering does not only have value for Black people and Black communities, it has value for the world. It has value to unlock the potential of all of us. Look at the diversity of this crowd in dialogue with each other. And so for me, the power of this work and the power of the album is like, it's not just about the presence of Black life. Black life having access, diversity having access to various spaces and places in our world is not enough. What is the substance of that diversity? What is different once Black lives matter and are put into application, right? I had a mentor tell me, I'm saying this everywhere I go, application, if you apply makeup to your face, then your face should look different when you're done, right? So when you make application of knowledge, it should look different. So that means we have responsibility, each and every one of us. If we're walking around with the knowledge that Black lives matter and with the knowledge that diverse peoples matter, then how is it mattering? This space right here that Brian put together, he's making sure that this matters to this space. Kendrick is making sure that his community and this work matters in substance and in rich content. And I thank you for that because, again, in my personal journey, right? In our personal journey, navigating self-worth is a treacherous path, right? And it takes the courage of other people to dig deep in their person and to be honest about what that looks like, to invite you, like I said before. And so, again, the thing that I want to say is that this right here is not just about celebration, it's about responsibility for all of us.
I was asked to close, but there's so many brilliant minds here that it's a heck of a responsibility. But I just want to carry this one theme that has emerged out of all the work that was presented. And even in Kendrick's conversation with the students earlier, which is the willingness of everybody who was on this stage to perform in this album. The brilliance of it is their willingness to be vulnerable. You know, it's very easy to take one line or two lines out of the essay or the poem and use that as a way to say, oh my God, they said something disparaging about themselves. I mean, so in these pieces, white privilege was on display. We should be comfortable to say those words, right? This idea of Black as dirty was on display and it was unapologetic. And I think the only way that we can move to have more critical and powerful conversations like the ones that were sparked by this album is for people to be okay with expressing their vulnerability and expressing the fact that it might be historical, like that was in the previous poem. And once we're upfront with our fears and what we've been taught, then we get to the point where we can deprogram and reprogram. And doing this work today is a work towards reprogramming thinking, right? So I'll be honest, right? Because I'm almost brutally honest in certain places. I got kicked out of a lot of places for being too honest. But you know, when I walked into the school today, there were a couple of things that struck me. The one thing initially was the kids were walking around the hallway like they owned the place. They were comfortable. You know, they were like, go to the auditorium. They're like, all right, when I get there, you know, like the dialogue between the students and the administration was a certain type of freedom that the students had. But last week I was in a school in the Bronx. And in that school, it was a very different type of exchange. Right? The assistant principal didn't say hi and shake hands and smile at the students when they walked in like she did. They said, get to the office right now, before the kids could even say a word. And what that meant for me is that in two different schools, with two different demographics, there are two different ways of interacting. And I'm not saying that to make us feel bad about where we are, because we should celebrate that. but we should also work towards ensuring that other spaces have those same opportunities. And that the student body in a place like this should reflect more diversity to allow other people to experience that as well. So as we celebrate how far we've come, and as we celebrate our freedoms, let's also ensure, like as Jamila brilliantly said, that we ensure that other people have the same type of opportunities.
And that we reprogram by doing this, and I'm gonna do this always to social media. If you want to challenge media, you recreate media. So right now, everybody who's here right now, get your phones out. If you haven't doing it already, some of them have. Hashtag HIPHOPED, that's Hip Hop Ed. It's a movement we've been working on for years. And this is probably the biggest thing we've seen so far. And on that Hip Hop Ed thing, say, listen, I just heard Kendrick Lamar speak and he was brilliant. I just heard 2 poems talk about their white privilege and they were brilliant. I just heard Dr. Lyiscott talk about the fact that we have a responsibility to do better and it was brilliant. The only way that we can change the narrative is by entering into that space, using our own discourse and our own voice, and reprogramming Hip Hop Ed.
And I love myself. The world